Hi, I'm Eric Mueller from MilePoint TV. Today at Star Megadoo 4, Jeff Smisek, President and CEO of United Airlines, addressed the attendees. Here's his presentation in its entirety.
Okay, so what am I filming next here?
Jeff, next up is the QA session for United 2.
Oh yeah. They chartered an airplane this time, I think. They do like the MilePoint and Flyer Talk stuff, right?
That's right. You got it.
Yeah. Does anybody ever look at Flyer Talk anymore? I mean, all I ever read is MilePoint. You know the penalty box. You ever read that? That thing is hilarious. Anyway, so when are we doing it? What time of day? What's this going to be shown? Do you know?
It'll be about noon.
All right, I got it. Okay, I'm ready to go. Let me ask you, is Tommy 777 going to be there? I mean, he probably dreamt this whole damn thing up.
Okay, stand by. We're ready. In 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Jeff Smisek, President and CEO of United Airlines. I want to welcome you today to our inaugural United Do here in Chicago. I can't be there in person with you today, but because of how important you are to all of us at United, I wanted to take the opportunity to share an update with you on the progress we're making and some future changes I think you're going to like. Look, wait. I got a much better idea than this. This is BS. I got a much better idea. Here, take this thing. Thanks. So I want to update you. Hey, first of all, thanks for being here. I hope you've had a good time. We've certainly tried to expose you to a lot of areas of United, and I appreciate the fact that you chartered an airplane. That's really nice of you. I appreciate that. And what an airplane. And I just flew in on the Dreamliner yesterday, and if those of you who haven't been on it, I mean, you need to get on it. It is spectacular. You'll really love it. You really will. I want to just talk for a couple minutes, and I want to answer some questions. You know, obviously this year has been a year of enormous change at United, and change is tough. It's been tough on our customers. It's been tough on our own coworkers, but we are making a lot of progress. Has this merger integration been flawless? Absolutely not. It's really hard to bring together two carriers and do it flawlessly. In fact, it's impossible. No one's ever done it in history. And this is also the biggest integration of carriers in history as well. And it has been tough, but we are making really good progress, and you're going to see a lot of things we've been talking about the future. And you kind of have a fine line talking about the future far enough in advance to give your customers a vision of where you're going and delivering what you're talking about doing. But in 2013, you're going to start seeing a lot of the product development we've been investing in, a lot of the technology we've been investing in, a lot of the aspects of customer service we've been investing in, rolling out. And I think 2012 has been a tough year for a lot of people, including United. But 2013, I think, will be a much better year in all the things we're putting in, whether it's the Big Bends or the Wi-Fi or the Dreamliner or all the things that we're doing on our fleet, but also at our airports, improvements we're making in our airports, the training of our own agents, because next year is going to be a heavy year focus on operational reliability and customer service. We're training 100% of our agents, 100% of our flight attendants worldwide on customer service, because we know that the experience of flight is what can differentiate us, along with, of course, our leading network. So there's a lot of really good things coming, but we've spent this year integrating and making the investments we need to roll out for the customers in 2013 and beyond. And I think it's going to be a really, really good year, and very good for the customers and also good for our coworkers, because this summer we did not run a good operation. You may have noticed. And that's tough on everybody. And there are lots of reasons for that, but that is behind us, and that's part of the pain of the integration. But running a good operation, making sure that we are on time, making sure that you get there when you need to get there with your underwear, making sure you make your connections. And that makes it easier on you as customers, easier on our coworkers, and makes for a much more pleasant flight experience. Because we all know that you can be on a brand new airplane with the coolest stuff, and if that plane is late and you're not treated well by an agent or a flight attendant, that flight can be just absolutely miserable despite a fine product. Or you could even have an older piece of equipment, and if that flight's running on time and you're being treated well, you know, you have a completely different flight experience. In fact, even on a late flight, if you're treated well, you can have a good flight experience. So we're going to be very heavily focused on delivering really good customer service, being operation reliable, and then we have, without question, the best network in the world. And it is a non-reproducible network. There is no airline that can reproduce our network. And that gives a lot of power for us in attracting and retaining business customers, but we need to do a good job every day when we do that. And with that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to start taking your questions. They've got some questions that, when we did the survey, we had a lot of frequently asked questions. I've got a clicker here somewhere. Yes, I do. And I'll go over them, and then when I'm done, I think I'll have some time for a few more questions. So why don't we start here? Now for something. You see, I knew they were frequently asked. 787s are here. Are there new long-haul markets in the works? Yes. These questions are actually fairly easy to answer. I think they did them in yes and no. Look, the reality is, this is a really competitive business. And while I trust everybody in this room, if I told you the new markets we're going to, it's the 40 people each of you would tell that I couldn't trust. But the 787s are designed for really long-haul missions. And in fact, all of the features of the 787, whether it's the higher oxygen in the air or the higher humidity, the better air purification, the better lighting, all that, really makes the biggest effects for customers on the long-haul missions, not the way we're flying them currently domestically, of course. They're fun to fly domestically, and it gives a great opportunity for people to experience the airplanes. But they're designed to go long-haul, and if you think of the United network, we ring the United States with powerful hubs, whether it's New York or Washington Dulles or Houston or LA or San Francisco or Chicago. So these airplanes are designed to fly out of our global gateways, long-haul missions. So yes, you're going to see not only new routes, but you're going to see us use the airplanes seasonally as well, where there's lower demand. A 787 can go in, with this higher demand seasonally, a 777 can go in. There will be new routes, there'll be frequency changes. There's lots of things coming on the 787. Recognize we only have 2 of them today, but we're going to end up with 50 of them, and potentially even more. So there are going to be a lot of interesting places you'll be able to fly. So you can fly us to over 370 destinations today as it is, but we'll be expanding that, and the 787 will help us do that, because with its fuel efficiency and its reliability, it's a terrific product. Very good for the customer and of course terrific for United. What steps is United taking to bring together 2 very different cultures? You know, I'll tell you, one thing I have learned in this process is patience, because it takes a long time. And to bring together cultures, you can't just, you know, talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And it takes time. So many things have got to be, need to be brought together, including work groups. And we're heavily unionized. And that takes time. Negotiating joint collective bargaining agreements takes an enormous amount of time. And these are not, by the way, these contracts are not 4 pages long. And it takes a lot of time. And that's important. But the key is to make sure that people understand that we really mean it when we say we want to make this a great place to work. We want to work together. We want to have a company people are proud of. We want to have a successful company. We want to have a company where our coworkers want to work here. And some people resist change, and you have to win people's minds sort of, you know, one heart, one mind at a time, one person at a time. And we've made, I think, very significant progress since we merged. But we've got a lot of work to go. There's no question about it. And we've got a lot of efforts behind the scenes. Not only do I get out a lot, I've done, I don't know, 60 some odd CEO exchanges, which is groups of coworkers this size are often much larger, where I talk and they can ask me any question they want and get an honest answer. And all of our officers, when they fly, talk to the crews. They get on the flight deck and talk to the pilots before we take off. You can't be up there once we've taken off because they lock the door and they won't let you out. So and then work the galleys and talk to the flight attendants, and often you can get in the back and customers come up and talk to customers. But it's really important to drive that open, honest, and direct communication throughout the company, and it does take time. But we are making good progress. I'm confident we will get there. We're not there yet, but we are making a lot of progress. Seriously, why shares? Look, The reason that we chose shares, there were many, many reasons. One, and important, is strategically we have the intellectual property rights to shares, which is very valuable because that's a core aspect of our airline. That controls our passenger service system, that controls our loyalty program, that controls our website. It's very important for you to be able to control your own destiny, and something as important as that. Secondly, we had spent on the old Continental side, a lot of time building application layers which were off of shares, which made our ability to go to market and for example, dynamically price things like Economy Plus much more readily than we could have done on the Apollo system. Where we didn't do a good job is we didn't have the front end built in time when we needed to migrate to a passenger service system, which meant from the United agent side, they had to learn sort of a new language and a little bit of the meet the parent style language, right, where you're typing away. Now, subsequent to that, we've developed two big apps for our agents, and in next month, actually, we're doing beta testing of the completely integrated front end, which is a very simple, very easy to use, very rapid, point and click, and it's all built as well with responsive design for whatever device it's on, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a PA, whether it's a touch screen, whether it's a normal computer. For point and click, very simple, easy to understand, easy to use, very powerful technologies which the agents will have, which will be much better than they've ever had before. But it was so important for us to get to a single loyalty program and a single website and a single passenger service system that we couldn't wait for the front end to catch up. And we've spent a lot of time, and we didn't just, in the front end that we have developed, we didn't do it just by sort of standing around and deciding, or sitting in meetings with management and IT geeks figuring it out. We actually formed groups of coworkers and got them together and got their advice and got their buy-off so that we could have the functionality and we could have the clarity and we could have the speed that our agents want and our agents need. So we're making enormous progress, but that was the reason behind shares. What's United doing to improve its reliability? A lot. In fact, we're running much more reliably now than we were, thank God, than we were this summer, because the summer was rough without question. God, it is hot in here. Have you noticed this? Jesus. I feel like I'm back in Houston. We were very focused on our operational reliability, and I will tell you that a portion of our fleet is an older fleet, and it had been underinvested in for many years, and that's what happens when you go bankrupt. I mean, and that's why you want carriers to be healthy, because you don't want that. And so we have some catch-up work to do. We've got some inventory and inventory allocation work to do. We've got some preventative maintenance work that we need to do. But we are bringing up actually the reliability of our fleet, and we're doing it in lots of ways, not only for our existing fleet, but we ordered 150 brand new narrow-body airplanes. They begin to come in 2013. And we've got the 50 787s coming. We've got 25 A350s coming. So obviously with brand new airplanes, you have enormously improved reliability. But we need to focus on, and we are focusing on improving the reliability of our existing fleet. We're spending a lot of money doing this. And we suffer from that in the sense that we have to sort of catch up for many years of underinvesting. But that was one of the purposes of the merger, was to be able to create the long-term profitability and sustainability and the sufficiency of that profitability, so we could make those investments, not only in the fleet, but in the experience on the ground, and the customer service experience, and improvements in the technology. All things we're investing in. We're spending an enormous amount of money doing that, but we're focused on improving our reliability. And we've actually, and you've seen it, you've experienced the numbers. We're actually doing quite well on time, and we will continue to improve because you've got to have operational reliability. All the product investment you make in the world doesn't matter if you can't be relied on to get our customers where we need to go. And we have enormous focus on it, and I'm confident that there will, not only have we achieved good reliability, we're going to continue to improve it in 2013 and beyond. How much longer until we will begin seeing Wi-Fi on board? Let me tell you, we were late to the Wi-Fi party, but I think that it ultimately will be to our benefit and your benefit, because we decided not to install your grandfather's Wi-Fi, but to just go ahead and go for broke and put global satellite-based broadband Wi-Fi on our entire fleet. What that means is you'll be able to be in touch wherever you are in the world, except the Great Firewall in China temporarily, and some of our polar routes where it can get out of satellite range for a period of time. What that means is we can dramatically improve over time our customer service because we can be in contact with you live when you're on the airplane. We can reaccommodate you. If you don't like it, you can reaccommodate yourself in what we reaccommodate. We can let you know if for some reason your bag's not on board. We can make sure you know that. You don't wait at the carousel. We can run it out to your hotel. You can text us or email us back your address. There's lots of things we'll be able to do, including our ability to communicate with our crews as well in flight, and the broad range of not only on productivity from a business perspective, but entertainment options that we'll be able to offer you through serving servers on board and streaming video with servers on board. And we also made the decision from a business perspective to essentially own the broadband itself, buy it and resell it, and own the portal. So we can control not only the sites that you can go to for free, we can control the advertising, we can control the pricing. We have a lot of control over the product, so I think it's a very good decision. When you'll be able to see it, we'll have about 300 airplanes done by the end of next year. We got the first A319 done. We started on a small airplane for the experiment. We're working on the 747 now. 747 is particularly important because we need improved entertainment in the back of that plane without question. But we'll have 300 airplanes done, and then we'll push to finish the rest of the airplanes off as quickly as we can. One thing you should know is the 787 does not have Wi-Fi. No 787 has Wi-Fi yet, to my knowledge, because when Boeing designed the airplane, it was sort of in the early days of Wi-Fi, and it's not so easy to just to cut a hole and it's not, you're not cutting a hole in aluminum, you're cutting a hole in carbon fiber and all of the mesh for all the electromagnetic stuff. But Boeing is working very hard to certify the aircraft for Wi-Fi. As soon as they do, we will then retrofit the aircraft we have, and then we'll start taking deliveries of the aircraft with Wi-Fi. Does social media have any influence on the decisions United makes? Yes. Next question. Look, of course, the world has evolved where social media is very important, and it brings both good things and difficult things. It brings an expectation of immediacy. I remember many, many years ago, and I will confess that years ago I used to be a lawyer, and it's like saying you used to be a prostitute, but anyway, I was a lawyer. And I remember and I'm old enough to remember the early days of faxes and the expectation of immediacy that faxes brought, and then email, the expectation that you haven't answered my email in 3 minutes. What's the matter with you, right? And social media brings a level of expectation of immediacy that's candidly very, very hard to fulfill for a company of our size with the breadth and diversity of people we carry. Remember, we carry almost 150 million people a year. But it is important. We do pay a lot of attention to it. We spend good coin on it as well. And it's an evolving area, but a very important area. And of course, it has an effect on us. And it's something actually that we do in effect embrace, because it is very much how people communicate and how word gets out. And it's an important aspect of today's society. Why sell upgrades for, quote, tens of dollars? I'm going to talk to our pricing guys. Even when their pre-members haven't been upgraded. Look, this is a balance, right? You want us to make money. It's good for you if we make money. You need us to be profitable. You need us to be here. You need all airlines to be here. It's good. That's why consolidation has been good in this industry, because it helped to stabilize what has been a very fractured industry with wild swings and underinvestment, and airlines going out of business, and airlines going bankrupt, and employees being laid off, and the things that you want, which is reliability, and you want breadth of network, and you want a modern product, and you want efficiencies, and you want good technology. You can't do that in a fractured, broken, perpetually bankrupt industry. So there is a balance between upgrading people and doing things like day of departure paid upgrades. And do we have that balance perfect? Of course we don't. We experiment, we try things, but we need to be able to sell some of the seats up front as opposed to upgrading them. And whether those are award redemptions, or whether those are miles and money, or whether those are paid upgrades, we need to find that balance. And I'm not telling you we know exactly what that balance is, and we'll continue to experiment, but we need to continue to bring cash in the door. Do you think the current 10 hubs are the right answer for United? I think we should probably paint all the airplanes yellow and hub Mexico City. You know, the answer is I don't know the answer to that question because hubs earn their business every day. I mean, a hub earns its business literally every day. And I cannot guarantee the existence of a hub because in a business you have to earn your freight, right? We have very powerful hubs for the most part. We have two smaller hubs in Cleveland and Denver, but we have very powerful hubs, and our hubs do well for us, and they are very important to us, and we continue to make investments in those hubs. But change can come, you know, over time. There's no way of knowing. Do I think we would develop a new hub, a different location? I think that's probably unlikely just because that is so expensive to do and such a risky proposition. Plus, we have very powerful hubs as it is. Could you know, levels of flying in any individual hub change? Of course they can. There's no question about it. But we have got wonderful coworkers who work really hard to make sure each of our hubs does well and to maximize the profit of each of the hubs. And we want to be as supportive of our coworkers and as supportive of our customers as we can, but ultimately the decisions like this are based on economics. It's easier to board a bus in Calcutta than a United aircraft. What are you doing about this? Our boarding process needs some work. There's no question about it. And we've experimented with different things as we've been integrating, and we don't have it right yet. You know it, and I know it. But we are and will be making further changes. You know, there's a balance of what you really want is obviously efficiently boarding the aircraft, but also recognizing your best customers and making sure that they have advantageous boarding. And many of these things we've brought on ourselves because as we've charged for checked bags, and as we haven't effectively enforced the carry-on rule as carriers, we've just incented people to bring the kitchen sink on board, right? And that slows the boarding process. And we have lots of tiers and a very sophisticated loyalty program, tiers of elites. And those people expect to be treated preferentially, and they should be treated preferentially. And as a result, the experiments we've done, we don't have it down right. And let me tell you, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Airplanes don't make any money sitting on the ground. Right? We need to get them up and we need to get them flying. We need to be efficient. So you are going to see some changes in our boarding process as we continue to tweak it to get it to something that works well for everyone. We think there's a lot of room for improvement. We know that. And part of that is also going to be some changes, physical changes at the airport. There's a very large project underway at United in terms of some things we're going to be doing at the gates and the hold rooms in terms of physical infrastructure and technology. That I think will make for a much more efficient boarding process and actually a better experience for our customers. Because when you get very crowded boarding gates and you get people who are worried about whether they can get their bag in the overhead bin and they sure as hell don't want to check it and pick it up, right? That's why they brought it with them, other than to avoid the fee. That puts a lot of stress on people. And the last thing you want to do is stress people getting on board the airplane. You want people to have a good flight experience, including the time at the airport. So you're going to see us continue to change the boarding process. I'm not confident that we will be able to improve it as we do so. Are you worried about an AA-US Airways merger? Worried probably isn't the right word. I personally believe that airline consolidation globally and in the U.S. has been an unalloyed good for consumers, and for communities, for our coworkers, for our shareholders. We've long had too fractured an industry, disarray in the industry, continual high costs of capital, continual bankruptcies, continual worries of our customers who would be there tomorrow. You know, are my loyalty points going to survive? I mean, all the concerns that people have, and consolidation has been good. Now, from United's perspective, if U.S. Airways and American were to merge, and I don't know whether they do, I don't have any inside information. I wish I did, but I don't. And so I don't know. But if it should happen, we would lose U.S. Airways in Star Alliance. And Star Alliance is a wonderful thing, and U.S. Airways is a good partner. And that would hurt United to lose U.S. Airways as a partner in Star Alliance. Because I'm assuming that U.S. Airways would go to One World, and I'm pretty confident that American probably wouldn't come into Star. So that's a negative. On the positive is we would have further consolidation in a business that's been too fragmented for too long. And I personally believe that the benefits to the industry and the benefits to United of further consolidation would outweigh the cost to United of losing U.S. Airways as a partner. But I do not know whether it will occur. There are many reasons where a consolidation could make sense. I look at what we've gone through in our integration. I think I'm going to enjoy watching that. But I don't know. I don't know whether it'll occur or not. Do you really drink the onboard coffee? Not only do I drink it, I like it. And I want you to know, on the Dreamliner, I was a flight attendant on the Dreamliner coming back yesterday because we had a coworker celebration. So I always serve as a flight attendant when we take our coworkers up and bring back a new airplane. And I was kept very busy making a lot of espresso and cappuccinos. And let me tell you, they are superb. I had many of them, and it also helps me understand that our flight attendants do a superb job, and it is a lot of work across an airplane that large, and they were superb. There were 7 of us on the aircraft serving as intern flight attendants, if you will, 7 of the officers. And at the conclusion of the flight, they announced that our applications had been accepted, but they would get back to us in a couple of weeks whether we'd get job offers. How about the decaf? You won't leave me alone, will you? Look, the issue with decaf is very few people drink decaf. And so what you end up doing is brewing a pot of coffee for one person, or brewing a pot of coffee for nobody. And over a network our size, that gets very expensive. And that's why we went to the decaf. Is it the perfect product? Of course it's not. And I don't have a better solution. I really don't. I would love to get a better solution. If you've got some suggestions, I'm all ears. And with that, I've got time for a couple of questions live. So fire away. Who's sorting these? I don't want to call on people to get mad at me, so I'll have him do it.
Hi, Ben Jacobson.
Hi.
I just had a question. With the Star Alliance is an awesome alliance, but it seems in the industry there's almost subgroups. You see, like with Lufthansa and Singapore, giving access to their availability, their lounges. United people may not have access to when flying first class. They've kind of created this like ultra premium product, and United being the largest airline in the world, we give full access to all of our inventory to them. They're not giving full access to us. What can we do to?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and alliances are just that. They are alliances, and there are sub-developments within the alliances. When you're in an alliance meeting, like a chief executive board meeting that I go to, there are also perceptions of the haves and the have-nots within the alliance. For example, we're in a joint venture with Lufthansa. We're in a joint venture with ANA. Not everybody's in that joint venture, right? And so there are deals that are struck bilaterally that are not that are within the alliance carriers, but not everybody has the same deals. And that can become confusing to customers. I agree. We try to make alliances as seamless as we can, but we all know they're not perfectly seamless, and we work to make them as seamless as we can. And also, different carriers have, to the lounge issue, have different lounge networks. So we have a vast lounge network, much larger than most people have got. And so there's also issues in reciprocity because, I mean, years ago, I'll never forget. Remember Kiwi? Remember that old airline? I flew like, I don't know, 3 places or 9 places or wherever it was. I remember when I was the old general counsel of the old Continental, I got a call from Kiwi saying they'd like to exchange air travel cards. So their people could fly wherever they wanted on the old Continental. We could fly wherever we wanted on Kiwi, right? Being a good business person, I said, no, right? So there's also differences in perceived reciprocity, but I understand. I don't have a solution for you because these are bilateral deals. But it's important that we get good lounge access across the world, and we do have that, good lounge access across the world when you're up front. There's no question. If you're flying up front, you get good lounge access. But many carriers have different levels of lounges, very premium lounges. Lufthansa is a good example of that. Lufthansa First Class Lounge, great place to go, by the way. Been there myself. I really like it. And so, but you do have these discontinuities. I'm going to let Rasan pick people over there.
Svi Whitman here. I have a question about the United management of ROPS in the past disasters that we've seen. We've seen United in many stations cancel flights many hours and in certain cases days before the competitors were still operating flights for many hours after United had already ceased service to that station. We've seen it in Boston, we've seen it in Dulles, and a few other stations across the system. Is this a broader philosophy at United to just cancel out everything during a ROPS instead of trying to push out as many flights as you possibly can?
Well, let me say that there are all types of levels and frequency of irregular operations. Let's take something that's really material and significant like Sandy. You know, it's important for us to make sure that we get not only our passengers and our crews to safety, but that we stage ourselves for picking up promptly as soon as we possibly can afterwards. There's never a philosophy of not flying a flight, because when you don't fly a flight, you don't have something called revenue, and that's generally a bad thing. But safety is always paramount, and you're also dealing in situations where you often have imperfect information and changing weather forecasts, and particularly changing wind forecasts, which are important. I personally think that we do a pretty good job in making sure that we're always focused on safety. We need to, and I would rather err on the side of safety when that happens. And yes, can that inconvenience some passengers? Of course it can. But you know, I think that we've got the right balance, and we will never fly a flight to try to get some revenue when there's any issue with the safety on that flight. We just won't do it. And I'm not saying that other carriers do that. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, different people can have different judgments. Different people have different volumes of aircraft at particular stations. Different people have different aircraft with different capabilities as well. I got time for one more question.
So I want to touch on the JV, the antitrust joint ventures, you know, over the Atlantic with like Lufthansa and Swiss, over the Pacific with ANA. If we really are to treat them as metal neutrality, so we're willing to fly either airline equally, then there should be equality on lifetime mile credit, upgrade access, maybe global services revenue credit, and so on. You know, the theory behind it was that you would pick whichever airline to operate a certain route, I think, and customers should fly whichever airline. But the impacts and services for us are different. Second part of my question is, please fix the Dulles concourse.
Let me deal with the Dulles in a moment. I'll do that actually first if I could. Look, Dulles needs work, there's no question about it, and we've you know, historically at the old United, they were sort of on again, off again, on again, off again about the Dulles. We need to prove that, and we're actually in talks with MWA for that. But let me also say that you need to make sure, we need to make sure as we do that, that what we end up building there is not going to destroy the profitability of the Dulles hub. That is, you can end up with Taj Mahals, particularly in government projects, where it becomes frightfully expensive to operate there, and that's not good for anybody. But we do understand that Dulles needs work. That's again underinvestment for many years that we need to catch up with. On the joint ventures, I mean, there's, you know, you're somewhat conflating the legal concept of the joint venture and the legal concept of antitrust immunity and the practical aspects of flying on the joint venture. There are always going to be, our joint venture airlines, there are always going to be differences in loyalty opportunities, because each carrier has independent loyalty programs, and candidly has different approaches to loyalty programs. As these joint ventures evolve, however, I think that some of those discontinuities will disappear. We don't have a full profit share joint venture, for example, with ANA. You start joint ventures fairly simply, and you learn from them, and you earn each other's trust, and you see how things work out, and you can get in deeper and deeper levels of sophistication and cooperation. And I think the things that you point out will come over time as those joint ventures evolve. Look, I want to stop and thank you very much for your time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming to the Do. And importantly, I appreciate so much your flying United. Thanks.